Welcome to another segment of Politics Wrap with me, Natasha Puri. Of course, a while ago, we saw ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa just reflecting on 100 days of the GNU. And today in studio, I'm joined by the SABC's political editor, Mzwandile Mbeje. And via our Zoom link, I'm joined by Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the Politics Wrap this evening.
Thank you.
So,
thank you very much for having me, Natasha.
So, because you're in studio, let's just start off with you. So you heard the president speak, you heard his reflections of the GNU, mentioning the successes of the GNU, electricity being one of those, marking 200 days of no load shedding. What do you make out of this?
Well, Natasha, I think you would expect the president of the ANC, which is the largest party in the GNU, to obviously be the one who will then speak about the message of the GNU, as the GNU, it must be seen to be working. Remember when they first conceptualized this and everyone was watching what's going to happen, is it going to be a coalition, minority government, grand coalition, or a GNU? So for the ANC and for the president, it makes so much sense that he is the one who then says the decision we took a couple of months ago was the correct one. And that's why you heard him mentioning some of the things really that seem to be positive, particularly when you look at the economic sentiment currently. I mean, you've been having some green shoots really that are promising. I think the test is how sustained those will be. And then, of course, I think one of the easiest things that is visible to everyone is the issue of petrol. I mean, it's been going down to the benefit of everyone. So the president will, and also articulating the fact that their priority obviously is job creation, inclusive growth, but also making it a point that as much as it is the GNU, it is the ANC-led.
Professor Breakfast, let me take this conversation to you. We also heard the President Ramaphosa saying that the GNU should not be judged by which political party is a part of it, but what it can do for South Africans.
Yeah, I think the president was trying his level best to showcase to us that there is no gap between the GNU and the manifesto of the ANC, and that the ANC is in charge of this arrangement. And also, I think in the light of what has happened in terms of the attacks that the president and other people who are leading this project have been getting, I think he was trying to justify what was the rationale behind constituting this government, and that the ANC is trying its level best to achieve its objective realization in terms of reducing inequality, poverty, and unemployment. Of course, the interesting phenomenon is the fact that the SACP stayed away from that event in opposition to the GNU. So it's going to be interesting how these tensions are going to play themselves out. My reading of the situation is that the succession debate has started, because you can see that people within the ANC are pulling in different directions. And the tension is not going to de-escalate. I think it's going to escalate. I mean, I was watching the other leader of the Communist Party on a different channel saying that they think that the GNU is a proxy of international capital, and that the ANC made a strategic mistake by joining forces with the DA. So I don't think that the Communist Party is going to back down until their demands are met.
And talking about the Communist Party, today we spoke to the ANC Secretary General, Mr. Fikile Mbalula, and of course he had indicated that the General Secretary of the SACP was the one who actually asked for postponement of today's bilateral meeting. Of course, a new date will be set, but how do you see those discussions panning out, seeing that the SACP was critically, was critical rather, of the GNU?
Well, the Communist Party is concerned about its own constituency, which is the working class. You must remember the ANC is a broad church and it's a contested terrain. But at the same time, these two political parties are not new. I mean, when GIA was rolled out, there was a big tension between the Communist Party and the in 2007, here in Mbeje, the SACP took a position to swell the ranks of the ANC. But the challenge is that the SACP, sometimes it comes across to be applying double standards. Because on the one hand, they are protesting against some of the decisions which are made by the ANC. On the other hand, they are also serving in cabinet as ministers in a government that one can argue is led by the ANC, which begs the question as to where do they stand in terms of these issues. When it suits them, they want to benefit. When it doesn't suit them, they want to criticize the ANC.
So another thing that came out today, earlier on, we heard the ANC Deputy President talking about a clearinghouse structure. Now, this is a new structure that has been set up in the GNU, and of course the Deputy President will be heading this structure. They'll be meeting this Thursday in Cape Town, and this structure is basically for GNU partners to raise issues, contentious issues that they don't agree with, to actually solve those issues. And of course, like we can expect, part of the Bella Act, those two clauses, and the NHI in its current form will be discussed. How do you think this meeting will pan out?
And I think one of the things that we heard from the president, and particularly from the ANC, is that they really want to project this GNU as working and working for everyone. The fact that they have, as parties that are part of the GNU, have decided that they need to have a structure which will then be able to deal with the issues. I think one of the things that the Deputy President, Natasha, said as well, which I found very interesting, was that it's not only going to be confined to issues where they disagree, but it's going to look at the national issues. As the country, we are set to host the G20 next year. Already those issues will be on the table. So they are basically want to be as inclusive as possible to bring everyone on board so that everyone will feel part of what is happening. There are very critical voices to this GNU. I mean, even the alliance partner, I think the Prof has made it clear, particularly when you refer to people like the SACP. But the fact of the matter is that you have set up this structure, you wanted to make it work, and then you are putting all the elements that will make it work. And I think it will perhaps go some way in terms of identifying some of the issues that may be problematic. And the fact that they are actually bringing the parties to discuss the issues of national importance. I mean, the hosting of the G20 is big. Remember, you are bringing the presidents of the world, of the first world countries. It's a huge thing.
Prof, how would you define this clearing structure? And I think the work of this clearing structure, how important will it be in dealing with such issues like Mzwandile highlighted, and as well as contentious issues?
Yeah, just to build on what Mzwandile has said, coalition formations have been unworkable and unstable. So it's good to have a platform for coalition partners to articulate their discontentment. Remember, coalition formations are drawn from international best practices. You know, the conception of coalitions was foregrounded by Arendt Limfand. So in countries like Germany, France, Norway, this is what they do when they have disagreements. They sit around the table, articulate their views, and not collapse the government, as it has been the case at local government level. So I think this will de-escalate some of the tensions. I mean, there are controversial bills which are in the pipeline. The Bella bill, there are some sections which were put on hold, which have not been signed off. Also the issue of NHI and other bills that might be introduced. So I think it's really a wonderful idea in terms of making this GNU to flourish. But also in the bigger scheme of things, I think there are other threats which are posing a danger to the GNU. But from my standpoint, I think it's a step towards the right direction.
Okay, Mzwandile, before we actually close off, just on the backdrop of what the Prof said, is the centre holding the GNU? You heard Deputy President Paul Mashatile saying there are no quarrels in the GNU, contrary to what has been put out in public. But I mean, previously we saw the spat between Banyaza Lesufi and the DA's Helen Ziller. Recently, the provincial secretary of the KZN, Mbeje Mtolo, also entered the fold. What's your reading into this?
Well, I mean, in short, I think the people who are currently central at the GNU, so I would give them credit, it's still holding. And most of the noise that we hear are people who may be outside, like the persons that we have just mentioned. So far, it is still working, but I mean, no one expected it to be a smooth ride. I mean, this is a new concept for us as the country. And then, of course, we've always known that these parties differ in terms of their approach. So far, so good, I guess. The test is the sustainability and durability of it all.
And like the Deputy President of the ANC, Mr. Paul Mashatile, had said that this GNU is going to last. It will last and perhaps actually go over the 5 years that it's supposed to.
Well, no. Remember, the term of office is 5 years, and then it has to end, and then they have to go back to the voters. If then it's the same thing, so they can either craft something similar or the coalition, or perhaps one party will be able to win outright, which I think that's what the parties will want. But the fact of the matter is that if you look at this GNU, how it's structured, so chances of it lasting are very high, because even if one of the major parties were to pull out, so it will still hold. And remember, there are those outside waiting to come in.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. That was, of course, Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast and politics editor here at the SABC, just giving their various insights and reflections on the GNU, which has marked 100 days. Of course, we saw the DA as well reflecting on the GNU last week, Friday, of which the SABC actually covered, extensively. But what we can look out for this Thursday is that structure there, the clearinghouse structure, which will be chaired by the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, to actually talk about contentious issues within the GNU and where, GNU partners don't actually find common ground with. Of course, this is all that I have for the Politics Wrap. I will be back on Friday. We're going to go to the weather, and I leave you to the capable hands of Umpo, and she'll be back with you at the top of 10.